This weekend was Northern Shooting Show 2019, and you may have heard a lot of comments coming out of the show. So I wanted to jump in and leave my thoughts and a review as to what is generally considered a fantastic and successful show for the airgun and shooting community, but not so much for the airsoft. Now, I want to be fully transparent with you here. I had been speaking with the organisers of the Northern Shooting Show for the last few months, and they did send me some swag, basically, and to basically look at how we can promote airsoft with the Northern Shooting Show, because they really want us to be involved, and they just wanted to try and figure out how they could grow and where they currently stand. With that said, however, I did purchase my ticket, which is £12 or £15 on the day, and honestly, I'm probably not the ideal audience because for me it's quite a trek. It's 250 miles each way, as the event is located in Harrogate at the Yorkshire Event Centre. If you've never heard of the Northern Shooting Show before, this is their 4th event now, and it's a show that brings together manufacturers, retailers and distributors to showcase their products and allows you to view them and buy them, of course. And it's for all types of shooting disciplines and some of the kind of surrounding outdoor activities, whether that would be airguns, bushcraft, clays, competition shooting, hunting, and of course, airsoft. If you're into your guns, then this is going to be a great weekend. There is plenty to see and of course do, because beyond browsing through what was probably, I think, more than 100 stands this year, there are plenty of activities to watch and participate in. So you could go have a shoot at the 2-2 rimfire range, you could go to the archery range, you can watch plenty of live discussions, and also there's a lot of live demonstrations of products and tasks. But most of these activities and stands aren't airsoft focused, which is really what I want to concentrate this review on as an airsofter attending the Northern Shooting Show. And if you've never been to a show like this or a convention like this, it's typically cut into 2 focuses. You've got what's there to look at, and that's your stands and your stalls. Then you've got what's there to do, which are your activities and events. So I'll review this in 2 parts, and let's start with the stands. Upon arriving at the Northern Shooting Show, I did pick up a show guide, and doing typical fashion, I'll flick straight to the map, pinpoint like I do at theme parks where I want to start, what's the most exciting thing to start with, and plan my route from there. So I started and I went, right, where's the airsoft? Where's the airsoft? Where's the airsoft? There. 3. That's right, there's 3 stands. Those being Land Warrior, Fubar Bundy and Spectre Arms. And if you really wanted to be a little bit generous and widen the net, there's a little bit of crossover from other vendors. So we did have FRV Tailoring, who make awesome belts, and I know a lot of you airsofters use them. We've got Vortex if you're into your scopes like that, and of course Scott Country if you're into thermal and night vision. But realistically, their main focus there is not for airsoft. And in terms of buying an airsoft gun at the Northern Shooting Show, that was the extent. You have 3 stands. Now all of them had plenty of variation, loads of stock on the shelves, and really professional and fantastic looking stands. But in terms of having a presence of airsoft at an event and at a show, it was honestly quite ridiculously low. But what was really surprising to me was the lack of manufacturer support. You know, from the likes of having ASG, Newpro, Viper, Valken. You know, these are the big companies here that attend a lot of events to show their lineup of products, of course, but it also helps prop up the rest of the show and the rest of the airsoft traders and retailers there, because obviously they don't sell directly. Of course, I don't know if these companies all had prior engagements. I did notice Newpro was in Ireland over the weekend, and I don't know whether this is a cost prohibitive measure or just fundamentally that Northern Shooting Show doesn't pull in enough of an airsoft audience together to justify the attendance. Which brings me to the first point of any show, the circle of attendance. Without your stand and stalls, you're not going to bring in the players or the tickets. And then without these players, you're not going to entice the growth of more stands and stalls. And so for the organisers here, you've got to engage and gain interest from both parties. You know, the airsofters, in order to grow the stand setup. And that's something that I see lacking right now. But, you know, from the discussions I've already had with them in the past, they're trying, and they have tried in the past, but it's clearly not hitting any success right now. Beyond the airsofters, obviously we do have a lot of real steel gun owners and gun enthusiasts who do walk through the halls and have taken keen interest in airsoft guns, and especially the accessories and gear, which you'll know is considerably cheaper but just as sufficient in certain tasks. But that then brings me to a problem number 2 of having a multi-discipline gun show, and that is the law. The law requires the seller to see a proof of defence for an airsoft gun, and unfortunately, even if you've got your firearms acquisitions licence or your FAC, it doesn't warrant enough proof to be sold an airsoft gun. And I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but therefore means it puts in selling airsoft guns at a huge disadvantage with the current set of attendees at this show and many of the shows like this. And absolutely, while the law is clearly flawed in this area, it still remains that, a law. And until we either see it get reviewed or see a case in law where an FAC owner is accepted as a legitimate defence, it's always going to stifle the sale of guns and airsoft guns at the majority of these multidisciplined shooting shows. But I think it's fair to say, ultimately, if you were an airsofter going to this event to browse and buy, having just 3 stands is definitely going to be a huge issue. You've got the rest of the day to fill, and the only way to resolve this, as I said before, is to work with both sides. You're going to need to work with the players and the traders to promote the event. You're going to need to create buzz ahead of time, and I think the organisers are going to definitely need to promote who's confirmed attendance next time round. And the traders there are also going to have to step up their game to promote to their local audience to make sure that they help bring the audience to the event. Now, of course, by doing this, you're going to risk players debating attendance. You know, if I'd heard only 3 stands were there, would I take the journey? But at the same time, that's way better than having, attendees that turn up there discouraged, who basically feel cheated and definitely wouldn't attend a future event. Now, with the stands out of the way, let's look at the activities for Airsoft. This year, once again, we had the CQB experience, which, as it sounds, is an environment where you get to jump in and test your CQB skills while attempting to rescue the hostage. And this definitely got interest, especially because they were using blank firing grenades that pulled a lot of walkers in. We had the first multi-gun syndicate championship, which is basically a free gun competition with airsoft guns that ran over the weekend. Now, while attendees couldn't turn up and participate themselves, it was one of the reasons why I personally wanted to attend this show. Competition shooting, while it's not my personal enjoyment, it is definitely a step in the right direction for airsoft, and it's got a growing interest to the sports side of airsoft, which I was keen to watch as well as learn more about. And finally, we had the Have a Go range, where any attendees could just turn up and have a go with a wide selection of airsoft guns. Now, this was especially great for non-airsofters, to show them what it's all about. Parents were there with their kids, shooters who had previously mocked airsoft guns now got to see how little differences there are between some of the models to what they're using in the real steel world. Now, activities like this are the pulling power of any event, and that's where I believe the success of a show with airsoft involvement would work. It needs to bring in airsofters to the show, but it also will pull in non-airsofters who are just walking by to take a look and get a keen interest, and that itself will help unify general shooters into airsofters. For example, the multi-gun championship had spectators watching in rows, just spectating the event, watching people do their runs, even recording it on their phones and actively discussing how they'd never really considered this side of shooting and how airsoft actually works well for this. But unfortunately, with all that said and all the airsoft activities, the positioning of it, the fact it was outside, meant a lot of attendees wouldn't necessarily even see this part of the show because it could easily be overlooked. You can always spot a hall and go into the hall, but if it's on the outside, especially near the catering area, it can easily be overlooked. That said, it definitely has signs of promise. And for future events, and to bring in more airsofters, I personally feel we're going to need to have more of these activities. Whether it's something like a mini game, whether there are ranges that have different airsoft rifles to try out, maybe we could have some demonstrations or tech benches or even exclusive releases from manufacturers, giving the players the first chance to look at it, or live discussions. Just something to give airsofters the push from staying at home or attending and buying things locally to actually joining into a show, to participate and to join in with this experience. And along with these activities, you're going to need to have a far greater input from manufacturers and airsoft brands. Maybe even bringing personalities or influencers to these events to meet up with their friends and their fans or their followers. And I think that would go a long way into bringing a bigger airsoft audience. All in all though, the Northern Shooting Show this year for me, I had a good time. I caught up with a lot of old friends, I made some new friends, it was great to see some of the Airsoft Nation community coming over and we had a really good chat. But for the general airsofter, it's lacking and there's no doubt about it. But could it be more? You know, looking forward to next year, can it get bigger and better? Now, personally, I don't believe we have the numbers in airsoft or enough product exclusivity across all of the retailers to single-handedly host an airsoft show. Not without it being a huge price war under one roof, and we've seen it tried in the past and it's failed. But I do want a show though, something that's open for players to attend, and I truly believe that if we work with these shooting communities to bring this together, but there has to be support, both from players but also the industry, if we're going to see something like this thrive going forward. As I said before, I know the Northern Shooting Show had tried for this event, and they've tried in the past, but it is clearly missing the mark. So you have to ask, would I go next year? Not without knowing what stands and activities are there ahead of time. And I'm sure, and from the conversations I had with airsofters there, a lot of people walked away feeling the same. That said, with the right amount of promotion, with the confirmation and industry support, I would definitely give it another try. But now it's your turn. Don't be a spectator here. Leave me a comment below. If you went, either this one or previous ones, what's your thoughts? And if you didn't go, what would it take? What exactly are you looking for to get out and go to a show like this? Leave me a comment in the section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Airsoft Nation.